Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching us. Have a good rest of your day. I'm Daniel Kamarov. Welcome to the podcast on Daniel Kamarov YouTube channel. Please react to the podcast, like, dislike, share. All reactions are welcome. We live in a world of great opportunities, divided societies, post-truth, and military conflicts, where the religion component matters. When the words of Jewish prophet Isaiah, that nation will not lift up sword against nation, remain only a big dream. Today, I would like to talk about the role of religion in the life of a modern young person. It is my privilege and honor to introduce the most inspiring American rabbi, Peter J. Rubenstein. Rabbi Rubenstein is the Rabbi Emeritus of Central Synagogue in New York City, a Reformed congregation where he served as a senior rabbi for 23 years. He was a chair of Partnership of Faith in New York City, which includes the senior clergy of city's major congregations. Rabbi Rubenstein was ranked number 3 in Newsweek 2012 list of America's 50 most influential rabbis, and number 5 in 2013. He was named one of 28 2014 Americas by the Jewish Daily Forward. Rabbi Rubenstein is a Doctor of Divinity. He also received an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters from R. Hest College. Rabbi Peter, thank you for making time to talk to me and share your wisdom.
Daniel, it's good to see you, and I'm very honored to be asked to be part of this.
Have you dreamed of becoming a rabbi since you were a child?
The short answer is no. My brother, my older brother, is a rabbi, and I'm not sure that's the reason I didn't think of it. But when I graduated, I went to college. I majored in English, and uh, I took all my pre-med courses because I needed to. I wanted to go to medical school, and when I graduated from college, a joint MD PhD program because I wanted to go not into medical research. And so I was when I right after college, I was aiming at this joint MD PhD program. But when I was a freshman in college, a friend of mine asked me, "What do Jews believe?" And I know what Jews are, where, by tradition and by identity. But when it came to matters of faith, I didn't have much knowledge. And so I started to take courses in that with a professor at Amherst College, who I came to adore, and took every course I could. And then when I graduated college, my brother, who was a rabbi, asked me how come I went through college and I wrote my senior thesis on a Christian theologian, Paul Tillich. It was on Paul Tillich and William Faulkner. So it was at that time kind of the interchange between religion and literature. And so that kind of led me on a path. And eventually I decided, this is something I ought to explore. And that's how I made the tentative steps. I went, I asked my brother what Jews believe, and he was a rabbinic student at the time, and he fumbled around. He couldn't answer it easily. He said, "You ought to speak to my professor of theology." So I met in a bar on the west side of Manhattan with Rabbi Dr. Eugene Borowitz, who is one of the great shining lights of Jewish thought. And he asked me, "Well, what's your problem?" I said, "I don't have a problem. I just have a question." And he asked me, "Well, what's that?" And I told him. And he said, "Well, in order to answer that question, you have to come study with me." So I said, "Fine, I'll delay my joint MD PhD program for a year and I'll give you a year." And that's really we say in Yiddish that's really a matter of I wouldn't say disrespect, but it's chutzpah. And he's but what he didn't, I said, "Okay, I'm going to do that." But what he did not tell me is that I had to be enrolled in the Hebrew College, which is seminary. for rabbis in order to study with him. So I said, all right, I'll enroll and then I'll drop out and go to this joint MD PhD program. Well, I didn't drop out and I stayed in, and that's how I became a rabbi.
People say that every psychologist has his own psychologist, but does a rabbi need his own rabbi or some sort of spiritual mentor?
Uh, yeah, when I was a student at the Hebrew College, you had to intern. You had to, be in a congregation as part of your training. So I was in a congregation, and the rabbi of that congregation was Rabbi Jack Stern up in Scarsdale, New York. And as far as I'm concerned, Jack Stern was really one of the great, probably the best, not only a great rabbi, but a great man. He really treated me as though I was an assistant rabbi, and I got to know the congregation. I got to, preach. Um, I remember his father was still alive, and he, came to services, and I had to lead services one time, and he sat, and I looked down at him in the congregation, and I could see him firstly take his watch and put it to his ear, and then he looked at it, and it was the way he's of his telling me I was going on too long. So, but Jack Stern was my rabbi.
Karl Marx, who was a philosopher and famous advocate for communism, once called religion the opiate of the people, and this statement was later taken on by Vladimir Lenin. How would you comment on comparison religion with a drug? Maybe it has a pain relieving effect, maybe it helps escape from reality or creates an addiction.
Well, I don't think I never think of religion and drugs in the same thought. Religion can support one. It's not going to dull one's senses. If anything, it's going to sharpen one's senses. It's going to make people focus on the reality of their lives and of and of the current events, what's happening around them in the world. It's going to help them navigate that, but it's not necessarily going to make them happier, or certainly then it's not going to deactivate them in any way, or dumb them down. So I don't think there's any comparison at all. I don't think there's a connection, and I think that says a lot about Karl Marx, but it doesn't say much about religion.
I agree. I agree. Thank you. Do you agree with the expression that there are no atheists in the falling plane? Does a modern young person need faith in the supernatural, considering they stand firmly on the ground and everything is fine with them?
I think if we're alert to what's happening in our own lives, and if we care about what's happening in the world, I think we have to I think we need religion to help us understand that. And I think it helps me every day. And I'll give you an example and why. There's a line, part of the L'char Dodi, a song we sing on Shabbat to welcome Shabbat, and it ends, Adonai li v'lo ira. God is with me, and I will not be afraid. And I say that every day, especially when I'm worried or anxious or scared, and I need to believe that I'm not alone in this world, and I really believe that, and there have been a couple of times where I really felt that God interceded, and that there was a divine presence in my life, and so I don't think it has to do with drugs, and it doesn't have to do it. It just has to do with faith and a belief that you're part of something bigger.
That is really deep and truly inspiring. Um, Jews, like representative of other nationalities, have lived in a complex world full of danger and challenges. COVID, pandemic, conflicts, and wars. I read about the stories of the righteous among the nations who saved Jews during World War II. These people had nothing in common, neither age or gender, neither nationality or religion. However, they not only remembered, but also literally fulfilled the most important biblical commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. I would like to understand how Judaism would help to remain humane and be able to love your neighbor as yourself nowadays.
Well, firstly, let me say that those people who saved Jews were extraordinary, and they were extraordinary, and because not only did they put their own lives in danger, but they put the lives of their children in danger. Given what the Nazis were doing. So there are, those who were, just saintly. And Jews don't believe in saints, but I think there are people who act saintly, and uh, and I think that Jews have been sensitized to pain and evil in this world and hurting of other people. I think that is always in our mind. We know our history, we can feel the pain. And we also understand we're less than worldwide. Well, in the United States, we're less than 2.5% worldwide. We're less than 0.4%. Um, and that we have to be a model to those who know us and to the world. So I think every interchange that I have, I think with people, and I think that's true of most people, you try to be the best you can be. And I think that's what we're asking that's what I ask of my community all the time. And we who have been the recipients of hatred and anger and nastiness should be more sensitive, most sensitive to how we're treating other people in this world. And I don't think that's necessarily heroic. It's in a way helping create a model that'll keep us alive and keep the best people in this world alive.
Mm, that is really interesting. That is, what would you say the thing that we could do every day, maybe, to help maintain that or to improve that?
Well, firstly, I believe that we should regularly engage in Sedaka. Now, Sedaka usually is considered limited to giving money, but I don't think it's only that. I think it is helping people when they need help. For instance, there's a woman who sits, in the morning I go to a fast food. I shouldn't admit this restaurant, and she's always there with a beautiful dog, Labrador Retriever. And I sat with her once and asked her about herself, and she's homeless and living in the woods across from this place. And just I went over to actually this morning and I said, would you mind if I gave you some money and I said, to take care of your dog, because I love dogs and animals. And she said no. And she started to tell me some of the troubles because we had big storms here in the East Coast of the United States this last week. And I came home, I said to my wife, I said, we should try to find out, meet with her and see what she needs. And rather than just give her money, get the things that she needs. I mean, she's on a list to, for housing, but it's going to take a while, and she's embarrassed. She was at one point successful and now not. So that's a long answer to a short question. and
That's a great answer. And also, thank you for contributing for making the world a greater place. Let's talk today about Shabbat, which protected Israel more than Israel protected Shabbat. How can Shabbat help modern young people build relationship with themselves and or with their loved ones? Can it be kind of a detox after a working or study week? Or maybe gadgets? How reasonable is it for a time management perspective for a young person to take one day of a week for rest?
Well, I think it's first thing. Let me say is I think it's important, especially when we're and young is a relative term. When we're younger than I am, and when we're in school or when we're just starting out in the workforce. I think most importantly, it's important to be with people who you love and who with whom you feel safe, and that means family and close friends, and that's why it's important to share Shabbat. And there is, I think it's important to set aside time in order to make it special. And Shabbat is that our opportunity. It's our opportunity to set aside a day where we can claim our own humanness, humanity, and the ability to be other than a cog in a work machine or in an academic machine. So I think that's the one thing. I think when I do weddings, one of the things that I suggest to people is that they bless each other every Shabbat beforehand. I said, put aside your phones, shut off your Apple phones, your iPhones, your technology, and just there's a traditional blessing of a husband for a wife, but just hold each other close and say what you would want for that person, your fiance, or what would you want for them, and or how would you bless them. So it's not we have the ability to bless, and couples who do that just have the opportunity to at least carve out a moment in what is typically a hugely busy, demanding work situation, because these are people that are young and starting out in their careers. Put it aside and set for themselves a model of, sanctity, I think, is too big a word, but set aside a model of reclaiming their own humanity and their own decency and their own love. My wife and I have, celebrate Shabbat, every Friday night, and we've added, and Shabbat changes, so we added a prayer for people in Israel and Gaza and the hostages. And we, of course, do the traditional prayers over the candles and the bread and the wine. And our dog sits there because our dog loves challah, and especially when it's dipped in wine. So, but it's an opportunity for us to review our week, but also to talk about how much we love each other and what we mean to each other. And although we've been married over 30 years, it's just, I think that renewal is something that I think she and I certainly both need. I think people need.
In Judaism, there is an important commandment to honor parents and an important commandment for parents to teach their children. How important is the opposite in today's Jewish world to honor children and learn from them?
Well, I think I think it's extraordinary. I am extraordinarily important. I have two sons and three grandchildren. And one of the sons, when I introduce him, I say that he's the man I want to be when I grow up. And it's, I mean, he's my model. In a way, he now is my model of how I can be a better father, how I can be a better person, and certainly how I can be a better grandparent. Um, so I think it's important. Our children are gifts. I'm always learning from them, and just there's nothing more happy than their happiness. We treasure how each of us loves our children and what our children are doing, but we treasure our friendship.
We wish our Jewish friends a peaceful Shabbat, a Shabbat Shalom, or good Shabbos. But what kind of peace are we talking about if the modern world is full of conflicts and wars? Or maybe it's just a saying, a wish, or is it just a habit?
Well, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom is a Hebrew word that means peace, but it also means hello, goodbye, and wholeness. And I think that what we're wishing each other certainly is an opportunity for each to. Uh, it's a blessing. I mean, I think it's a blessing as much as anything that we're blessing those people that we love with a wish that they can set perspective in their lives, and Shabbat helps us do that. That we know, because we know work and busyness, we learn, we can strive for rest and peace. And also, given what's happening in the world around us, I think always, I mean, this is in the United States, a difficult time. And, we're not sure what the future holds, but it gives us the opportunity to renew ourselves and to say, no matter what happens, we're going to be strong, and both, certainly as a nation, but certainly as individuals and people and family. And I think family is extraordinarily important. It's a place of protection and a place of love and renewal. And so Shabbat Shalom, I think, means all that. And I think if we allow ourselves to feel it and to take time off and to create a distinction between our work week and the Sabbath, we'll be better for it.
One rabbi who plays golf, who loved to play golf so much, wasn't able to resist that passion and secretly played golf on Saturdays. The angels found out about this and reported to the Almighty and the Almighty said, "Okay, I'll punish him." So next Shabbat, the rabbi swung, hit the ball with a club, and it flew right into the hole for a hole in one. And surprised angels asked God, "God, you call this punishment?" And the Lord answered, "And who will be he able to talk about this?" So when do rabbis rest, since they often work on holidays and weekends?
Oh, Daniel, that's a great question. When the rabbis rest? Well, some of us by nature never rest. Even and it has more to do with us than our jobs. And I'm not going to go into. I'm always making lists of things I have to get done, and until I cross off everything on the list, I'm not going to be able to relax. Um, I think that, as I said before, I think that I've felt God in my life, uh, and a lot, but certainly there had been two things that happened where I really felt a divine presence. And Shabbat is, I don't think it's an opportunity to punish oneself by doing. I think it's an opportunity there's nothing wrong with doing what you enjoy doing on the Sabbath, especially if you can't do it any other day of the week. So, that guy who played golf, I mean, if you want a punishment, you make me play golf, but that man who played golf, was really suspending time, and I think that's Shabbistic. It's okay to be out on the golf course, and I think the stringent laws of what one cannot do should not stand in the way of what one can do. And I think there's nothing improper about doing what gives us pleasure, especially if it's helping make us better for the rest of the week. Look, we're all, rabbis are not different from anybody else. I mean, we have a separate title, we have a different education, we're certainly spending our time differently, but we're basically human beings, and we're a Jew among human beings, and a rabbi is someone who is among Jews.
If a young person comes and says, I have never observed Shabbat, but I want to try, what would you recommend one to start with?
Well, in fact, it depends upon their life situation. If one is married or a member of a family, I think families should bless each other. And I think that's what I would start with. Setting aside time. But I think the best way to do it is, I really believe in the blessing of touch and feeling, and putting your arms around somebody appropriately is an opportunity I think that's the best way to initiate Shabbat, and some way to bless each other. And that means even friends. It means that, if you're with a friend for Shabbat, you say, I just want you to know what you mean to me. And that would be, I know it's hard, sometimes it feels embarrassing because it's sensitive, and especially for men, sometimes men are not supposed to be that, act that way, but I think that's what you do. I have friends that go back. There's one friend I have from high school, not Jewish, used to spend Passover with me, and I would go over to his house on Christmas Eve, and that cemented us. We still, we still speak every, holiday season, which is coming up. And so I think that's how you start. You start with, realizing what gifts we have in our lives, and especially what gifts other people are to us, and put it in the form of a blessing.
As a rabbi, you have been involved in interfaith dialogue. How important is sense of humor for a rabbi to have a positive dialogue with representative of other religions?
So I think that, as I understand, that's a two-part question. How important is it to have relationships, and how important is it to have humor
Yeah.
in the relationship? The relationships are essential. As far as I'm concerned, interreligious, multi-faith activities are essential, and especially in this world of ours, but always. And it's interesting. As clergy, my best friends are clergy, and they're clergy of other religions and all different denominations. And we're probably most helpful to each other because we can understand each other. It may not be the same religion, but we have the same issues and challenges in our lives. I think it's not about having humor. It's just about being real with each other. And the thing about interreligious activities, multi-faith activities, is that you can, and certainly with my clergy friends, I can reveal I can reveal things to them that only they would understand. They may not be Jewish, but they're playing the same role, and you know, we kibitz. You know, kibitz is just we talk about other people. You know, it's been hugely important for me to have those relationships, and I'm there. You know, we're all some of us are of the same age. We've retired. We've moved to different parts of the country, and we're still in touch with each other. You know, we Zoom. There are three of us who Zoom regularly. One's in the Midwest of the United States. I'm in, you know, on the East Coast, um, and one is Muslim. So you know, we and we still complain about the same things. Often it's the people in our congregation we complain about. So I think it's hugely important, and I feel blessed and lucky to have them in my life. As congregations, there were times we would get together. You know, certainly Thanksgiving in this country was a time for us to worship together. When it came to 9/11 and the tragedy of that time, we got together, and I remember going to the mosque of my Muslim friend, uh, which was so interesting and so important. I think it's, you know, nobody understands what we're going through better than people who are doing the same thing. And whether it's the same religion or different religions makes no difference.
I want to thank you for the great opportunity to learn from you. Toda rabba. I'm currently in Israel and you're in the United States, and we're meeting on Friday. Shabbat is about to start here in Israel, and in a few hours it will start in the US. And I would like to wish you and your family a peaceful and pleasant Shabbat.
Thank you. I would just wish your community and people who are listening to this or watching this the opportunity, if it's not Sabbath for them, but the opportunity when it is Sabbath for them, that they use it well.
Yes, thank you. And I would also um, want to tell our viewers and wish our viewers to have a Sabbath peace, a great weekend, and thank you all for watching this.